Hi, it's Kitty1 here, back with part 4 of the video tutorial series Creating a Memory Match Game with Construct2. Now that we have decked cards, and we can shuffle the cards and lay them out, it's time to implement a turn of play. A turn begins when the player clicks on one card, and ends when the player clicks on a second card and the two cards are compared. So the first thing we need to do is create a global variable to store the number of cards picked in. And we'll call it G count cards picked. And go back to event sheet 1, and most of the work we do today will be focused on the mouse click event. And what we're going to do first is create a sub-event, and we'll test to see whether the global variable we just created, gCountCards picked, is less than 2. If it is less than 2, we're going to add 1 to that same global variable. And we're also going to turn the card face up. So we'll go to the cards instance variables. So we created that Boolean face up, and so we'll set that to true. We also need to turn the card face up. So let's move the two actions to do that, to set the card face, to set the animation to card face, and to set the frame to the card face frame. Let's move them down so that if the count of cards picked is less than 2, we'll add 1 to the count of cards picked, turn the card face up, and then actually change the animation and the animation frame. Now we need to handle the first card a little bit differently than the second card. So let's create 2 more global variables. The first one will be gFirstCardFrame. And we want to initialize it to -1 because it is possible for our first card frame to be 0, if you recall the way the cards were laid out. And create another one. We'll call it gSecondCardFrame. And also initialize it to -1. Go back to the event sheet and create a new sub-event under the sub-event we just created. It will also be a system sub-event, and we'll check again to see whether gCountCards picked, this time we want to see if it's equal to 1. If it's equal to 1, then we want to set gFirstCardFrame equal to the instance variable in our card that stores the frame number. So it's card.cardFaceFrame. And we want to do the same thing for the second card, except change it to be stored in the gSecondCardFrame. So let's copy that sub-event and paste it. Change the value we test for it to 2, and change the global variable that we're going to set the frame number to gSecondCardFrame. Right. At this point, we have turned up both cards, and so we're ready to test to see whether our cards match. And a good place to do that would be right underneath this event that gCountCards picked is equal to 2. So insert another sub-event, and we're going to do another system condition. This time we're going to compare two values. And we're using that modulus function once more. Anytime you divide an integer greater than or equal to 0 by 2, the remainder is either 0 if the number is an even number, or 1 if the number is an odd number. So we're making use of that fact to test to see whether these two frames are actually adjacent to each other. Let me count in put in the second one. All right, now, if they match, then what do we want to do? We want to destroy the card. We want to remove it from play, so we destroy it. There is a problem. If we tried to run this right now, only the second card would be destroyed. And that is because the second card clicked is the one that's currently selected. In order for both cards to be destroyed, we have to select both cards. And there are many ways we could do this. You could save off the unique IDs, or in some other way keep track of which actual card it is that you want to turn back over, and then go directly to those cards and turn back over, or destroy them rather. But we're going to use a more brute force method, and we're going to turn over all the cards. Let's add another sub-event. And it'll be a system sub-event to pick all instances of the card. Okay, now once we have all those instances, what do we want to do with it? Well, we want to find the two that are face up and destroy them. So let's add another sub-event that says that if the card is face up, that is, its Boolean instance variable is set face up, then we want to perform this destroy action. So drag that down to the new sub-event. We want to do something pretty similar to that for the case where the cards don't match. So copy that and paste it. But since we want to test to see if the cards don't match, we're going to invert this condition. And then when if the cards don't match, we want to turn them face down. So let's go up and take this line that sets the animation to card face, copy it, go back down and paste that in, and change the animation to say card back. And we can delete this card destroy action. We also need to turn the card, change the Boolean to say that the cards are not face up. So go up to where we set it the face up to true, copy that, and paste it, and change it to false. Let's go ahead and see what happens. We click on a card. It turned the card back over, but it only showed us one card. It looks like only one card is turning over, but the real problem is that the second card is turning back over so quickly that we don't see it turn. So we need to add a delay before we turn the card animation back over. So let's add an action, a system action, to wait and we'll wait 2 seconds. We want to move that action up above where we change the animation. Let's try it again. This time it worked. It turned it back face over. But we can only turn the cards over once. If we click again, nothing happens. The problem is that we are getting caught by this condition that checks to see whether the G-count cards picked is less than 2. Since we went through here the first time, we went through here and added 1 to it twice, and so now it is equal to 2, and it won't allow us to go through and turn in more cards over. So what we need to do is reinitialize G-count cards picked. And the place to do it is not here where we're testing to see that it's less than 2, but down here where we're doing our test to see whether the cards matched. So let's add a blank sub-event there, and it'll be added down at the bottom. We want this to execute every time, so that's why we leave it to be blank. Let's add an action that says that sets the value of G-count cards picked to 0. And while we're at it, let's also add an action to set G first card picked, G first card frame rather, to -1. And copy and paste that and change it to do the same thing for G second card frame. Now when we run it, it allows us to turn over more than 1.